Welcome. In the first part of this two-part series on the technical aspects of UID, I had dealt with, or rather pointed out, to two important academic papers or studies, or based on studies. One was the article in The Economist on 1st October 2010, which was titled Babbage, the Difference Engine. And it dealt with biometrics and its fallibility, shall we say, or its lack of absolute definiteness or reliability. And the second one was the article in the Times Online by Professor Ian Angel, who called the national ID cards the ultimate identity theft. Now, this is the second and last part of the technical aspects of UID. And here I shall deal with studies conducted by the most reputed of the institutions, scientific, engineering, academic institutions of the United States of America, and which will show how wrong we are in pursuing this rather foolish exercise of setting up the so-called largest database of its kind in the world. Now, I have not mentioned the study done by the London School of Economics, which is available as a public document for anybody to see, and the UK government's policy to scrap the National ID Card Act in the United Kingdom was largely a fallout of that study and such other studies. Now, the interesting aspect is, I want to point out that these studies were available to the Indian government and the Unique Identity Authority of India, UIDAI, as early as 2010 or even earlier. In fact, the LSE study, the London School of Economics study, is somewhere around between 2006 and 2008. So it is not that we lacked information before we plunged into this rather stupid exercise of capturing biometrics of a national population, storing it in a large database, and then trying to number people based on that. So this second part is known as, is titled Biometric Recognition, and it's by the National Academies of USA. And they have published a report, and this is the report, which is subtitled Challenges and Opportunities. Biometric Recognition, Challenges and Opportunities, and the publisher is the National Research Council, which is composed of four US academies: the National Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Engineering, the National Academy of the Institute of Medicine, and the National Research Council. These are the four research organizations which conducted this study, and this report is largely based on that. So now let's get on to my topic today and the meat of the presentation. So first I would tell you that there are two principal findings which come out of this. One is that human recognition systems are inherently probabilistic and hence inherently fallible. It's a very, very important finding and very significant. In other words, you are only certain to a certain degree of probability that the person who is in front of you and whose biometrics you have captured and checked against a database, that person is he or who she has presented you with the biometrics. It is not 100% certain. It's not an yes, no answer. It says, yes, probably 80%, 50%, 70%, this person his biometrics or her biometrics matches the one in the database which you're checking. And therefore, it is inherently fallible. That means there could be errors in it. That if you base your decision on this biometric sort of recognition, you could be wrong. And there's a very famous case which is mentioned in the Economist article, that of Brandon Mayfield, who was known as the Madrid bomber, mistakenly identified from the FBI's database in the United States as the bomber, and later on the FBI had to compensate him a couple of $1 million. The second and principal finding is that biometric systems, therefore, this is an offshoot of the first finding, that they are probabilistic and inherently fallible. Therefore, the biometric systems should be designed and evaluated relative to their specific intended purposes and context rather than generically. In other words, it is not an omnibus solution as our government and the UIDA imagine it to be. In fact, imagining India in a wrong way, I would tell Mr. Nilekani, he is imagining some things which are totally scientifically erroneous and from an engineering standpoint totally impossible to achieve. So what it means is that if the government of India and the UIDAI decided to use, say, biometric systems in the public distribution system, PDS, or in the LPG distribution, they should have specifically designed it for that purpose, because that has got its own nuances, as we shall see a little later. So these are the two principal conclusions which the biometric recognition report of the National Academies of USA came to. Then they described, I'm only giving you the meat of it, probably 1 or 2 pages of the entire report, which runs into about 140 pages and has about 4 appendices. The next important thing which the report mentions is the sources of uncertainty in biometric systems. So first of all, we must understand that there are variations within a particular person. A person over time or in a certain time itself or between 2 days, there would be changes, or between 2 data captures, there could be changes within a person's biometric characteristics itself. For example, he or she will change with age. The environment, if you are in a hot, humid, dusty environment, or if you are in an air-conditioned room, the biometric characteristics captured could therefore be different. Disease, the person has, say, cataract or glaucoma, then his iris could be affected. If he has calloused hands, the thumbprints or the fingerprints could be affected. If he has psoriasis, the fingerprints could be affected. So all these illnesses or diseases, injuries, for example, could cause distortions. Then even stress, a person has stress, his biometric characteristics may change. His DNA, his iris may exhibit certain differences which may be not attributed to the stressful condition which the subject is going through. Occupational factors, for example, a farmer or a mechanic who uses his hands often, a blacksmith, a manual laborer. These people have calloused hands, and it's extremely difficult to capture their biometrics. Elderly people, for example, the former Chief Minister of Karnataka, Mr. Yediyurappa, they tried at the launch of the scheme in Bangalore, they tried to capture his biometrics and did not succeed at all after 3 or 4 attempts. Interestingly, I had asked in an RTI, and somebody else was also asked the same question to say whether his biometrics were captured or not, and UIDA very conveniently said that it's confidential information and they cannot give it. This confidential, I would call it within quotations, and sorry for using slang, bullshit, will be exposed in another of my talks. So age, environment, disease, stress, occupational factors, training and prompting. In fact, I visited one of the enrollment centers, and there I saw the person who was taking the biometrics was sort of helping the subject to keep his hand properly, pushing it and pushing it down and tilting it and so on. So this kind of prompting. So another person capturing the biometrics may not do that. The training given to the first person and the training given to the second person who is doing enrolling or authentication may be different. The subject himself may have been trained, may not have been trained. So these things will certainly make a difference. Then intentional alterations. That means the database administrators may make changes. For example, I noticed in the enrollment center which I visited that when the system stipulated that about 50% confidence level should be there and an old lady's biometrics could not be captured, the system administrator overrode the system specifications and allowed entry or enrollment even with less than 25% of the biometrics data captured. So that is an intentional alteration. You could have intentional alterations in name or age or sex and so on. There were hilarious news items which came now and then as this enrollment was going on about a dog or a biryani being enrolled in the UIDA's database. While one may dismiss it as trivial or anecdotal, the fact remains this is a source of uncertainty, intentional alterations. Then there could be socio-cultural aspects at presentation. For example, the poorer sections of society, those who come from perhaps the so-called castes, the backward classes or the lower castes as they are sometimes depicted. Although I don't believe in any caste system, higher or lower, all castes to me are equal, but traditionally society terms some as high and low, and I am referring particularly to those who culturally are predisposed to be humble in the presence of authority. These are the so-called lower castes, and when they come for enrollment, they are so inhibited in the presence of the awe-inspiring technology, the wonderful rooms and furniture and so on. They place their fingers or their iris in such a manner that they are almost fearful, and that would lead to difficulties in capturing accurately the biometric systems. Changes in human interface with the system. This is another uncertainty. As we talked of training and prompting, it could also be the level of technology or how a person interprets or operates the system could make a difference. Now this is one set of uncertainties, and this is within a person's biometric characteristics. The second uncertainty is the sensor itself. After all, the sensor is a sophisticated, sensitive instrument. Now, such an instrument will need calibration. The sensor's age and calibration, how well it interfaces at any given time and mitigates extraneous factors. For example, a particular sensor may be designed in order to tolerate a certain lack of ambient light. Another may not be. Maybe the second one requires recalibration. Now this is a very, very important aspect. Its sensitivity, all these things play a role. Now that is where, if we go back to the previous one, where we talked of the the environmental factors affecting it, and how we said in the beginning itself that the system should be designed. The system should be designed with the application in mind. Biometric system should be designed and evaluated relative to their specific intended use. Now, when you don't do that, this is the problem which happens. That is, the sensor, when you try to use it for authentication, say in a home environment at the time of delivery of an LPG cylinder. There are poor homes, there are rich homes, there are muddy homes, there are all kinds of homes, and you'll find that the sensor works in one place and doesn't work in another place. Now imagine in a ration shop, there are in Karnataka alone there are about 20 or 30,000 ration shops. all over India there are about 6 lakh ration shops. Imagine leaving these ration shops, each one with a sensor to be calibrated and so on and maintained. It is virtually impossible. We would be fooling ourselves if we try to do that. And the next uncertainty or cause for uncertainty is the feature extraction and matching algorithms. A biometric image, the sensor captures an image, a picture, a photograph if you will. But that picture cannot be compared directly with the picture of another person's, say, fingerprints. Now it needs to be, certain features in that need to be extracted. The fingerprints have got ridges and valleys. Now these features have to be extracted and to put into a digital form. That is what an algorithm does. Now different algorithms or different sensors or different systems may use different algorithms, and therefore the feature extraction will be affected. Therefore the comparison of the biometrics between the one which is being captured and one in the database will be affected. And last area of uncertainty, these are the 4 major areas. There are hundreds of other uncertainties. The data integrity itself is a cause of uncertainty of biometric systems. Information tends to be degraded. This is what Professor Angel mentioned in his Times Online article. The degradation may take place through legitimate data manipulation. As we have seen, the system administrator may change, may override a system specification, may add data or remove data. That is one, legitimate. But that legitimate change could be erroneous. After all, it's a human being who is doing that. It could be degraded also or corrupted due to security breaches. Somebody may enter your system and then create a biometric data record which may be false. In fact, UID itself claimed in their counter affidavit in the Supreme Court that they detected 80 million false or duplicate enrollments. So they are admitting that there could be false enrollments. So that is the 4th area of uncertainty, data integrity. Management of the entire system. How do you manage such a system? It is so ridiculous that this authority, so-called UADI, is trying to link up all databases in the country. The banking system, the ration card system, the welfare schemes like the rural employment guarantee schemes, pensions, provident funds, stock accounting, stock markets and so on. It's mind-boggling. And ration shops, 6 lakhs in number, how many stockbrokers and how many stock market operators, how many companies, how will they manage all these things? To manage this entire thing, linked to a central database, authenticating and deduplicating and so on, is virtually impossible. Neither humanly nor through a machine is it possible to manage such a vast system. So that is a very serious area of uncertainty which will affect data integrity. And I'll have something to say on data integrity much later in another talk. Inappropriate compression. When this image is transmitted or transferred from one system to another or from capture to a database, it is compressed in order to reduce the load on the communication system. Now that compression itself can cause uncertainty. Now therefore the report, the National Academy's USA report concluded about, they said about the basic principle which one needs to adopt in design, development and deployment of biometric system. They said that users and developers should recognize and take into account the limitations and constraints of biometric systems, especially the probabilistic nature of the underlying science, the current limits of knowledge regarding human individual distinctiveness, and numerous sources of uncertainty. Basically, this is the problem. And unless users and developers, now there are a number of user agencies. For example, SEBI would be a user. Every bank would be a user. Did they recognize this, or they simply accepted what UID has said? oh, this is foolproof, this is presto, at a click of a mouse, you know whether the person in front of you is the person who he or she claims to be, and therefore you can use it for KYC norms. And the RBI governor accepts it. Does he know the limitations of the system? He does not. I have written to all of them. I've written to my bankers, I've written to the chairman and managing director of the largest bank, public sector bank in this country. I've written to the RBI governor. I didn't even receive a reply. They don't understand the limitations. They simply gulp and swallow the words of UADI. It's a sad story. Now, in looking at the technical aspects, I must also state that a friend of mine, Dr. Hans V. Matthews, a mathematician, has made a calculation based on conditional probability calculus. He used the proof of concept study done by UIDI and the error rate given there. Using that error rate, he calculated that when you come to the last 100 million people you are enrolling out of 1.2 billion, and when you start with the first 100 million, the error rates in these 200 million lots, the first 100 million and the last 100 million, he says the error rate will increase by an order of magnitude of 10. Now, his mathematics has not been challenged. He wrote an article in the Economic and Political Weekly, EPW. UIDA tried to give a wishy-washy, a vague response, and he has countered that, and they have not then come back to him and disproved him mathematically. There's no point arguing metaphorically or using anecdotes. You have to argue a mathematical paper mathematically. They have not done that. And inadvertently, by ignorance, UIDA has actually proved the mathematics of Dr. Hans Matthews. In fact, in the counter affidavit to my writ petition, UIDA stated that 80 million people out of 800 million enrolled at that time were either false or duplicates, and they simply deleted the second dated, the later dated enrollment packet, as they call it. It's not a packet, it's a person whose biometrics, whose very existence is being deleted, and that is deleted on the false assumption born out of ignorance that biometrics is foolproof. Now, these are the uncertainties of biometrics as established by 4 of the highest academies of the United States of America. And this report, as I said earlier, was available to the Government of India and to UIDA as early as 2010, when they were just launching this entire program. If they had only cared to study that, they would have questioned the American companies which were providing this technology and pitched them against these academies of sciences and asked them, how say you? If they had only done that, we would not have wasted the several thousands of crores of rupees which we have wasted today. And we'll have to ultimately scrap it because this simply does not work. Thank you, and see you later in another edition of the Fifth Estate videocast.